At the heart of our training program are our knowledge challenges. They're specifically designed to help you build confidence and to go ahead and increase your knowledge in order to do better on the written part of the state board test. And in this case, we see there's many different categories that we have. Like, for example, here I can click on rules and regulations, and it goes ahead and it takes me to that particular module. And the way these modules are broken down is they're broken down into 10 question increments. And over to the right, we have a vertical scroll bar that we can actually scroll down our different questions. One of the options we have up here is called change page font viewing size, that if you're looking at these particular questions and answers and the font is too small, you can click the drop down and pick a different size factor, such as I'll click on 14 here, and we see we increase the size. If I go ahead and click that, I can click on 10 again and go back to the default value. Down below we have our answer key area, the yellow boxes, where you could either type in your answers, or you'll notice that next to each answer there's a hyperlink answer option that you can go ahead and click on. Like, for example, I'll scroll down the list. I'm looking at question 9, and I can go ahead, I can read the question, and then I can go ahead and actually click on the actual hyperlink that I think is the correct answer, and it drops in the yellow box for me. Or if I want, I can actually click inside the yellow box and type in my own answer if I like. Once I type in my answers, what I can do now is click on check your answers to see whether or not they're correct. And we notice in these red square boxes that we end up with either a yes or no. Down here we have our correct box that tells us how many we got correct. Like in this case, there's 7 out of 10. I can then click see actual answers to see what the actual answers are for those questions. And then I have an option here, flag your knowledge level. This allows me to flag the ones I'm having trouble with, so later on I can use one of the program challenge options to go in and reinforce learning what the actual answers are. Like in this case here, if I look at question 9, I can click the drop down, says high, I can click low, and I'll do the same thing for question number 10. I'll go ahead and I'll mark that low as well. I have an option called clear this page. If I were to click that, it would actually clear all the yellow boxes for this particular page. In this case, I don't want to click that. There's an option here called clear this entire section. This will clear all the yellow boxes for all of rules and regulations. In this case, I'm not going to click that as well. There's an option here called view edit my notes. When I click that, it launches my default word processor, and it creates a file called mynotes.rtf, and this allows me to put down any notes, any ideas that might come to mind on how I can better prepare for the state board exam, things like that. In this case, I can go ahead and close out of the word processor. We have an option here called next page that will take us to the next page for this particular section, and it tells me here how many pages I have total and what page I'm currently on. So if I click next page, I now see I'm here on question 11. To go back to the previous page, I can click previous page, and it'll go ahead and it'll take me back. To return to the main menu, I click the link in the lower right corner, main menu, and it takes me back to the main menu. To return to rules and regulations, I click its command button, and it takes me back. And the beautiful part about this particular program is that it actually stores your answers. So what you can do is you can go ahead and attack a particular section in one swoop, or if you want, you can piecemeal it, doing a little bit at a time, and then when you come back later on, you're actually going to see your answers are still there. I click next page to go to the next page for rules and regulations. And what happens right now is I need to leave, whether it's to pick up a child at school or whatever, for whatever reason, go to work. And what happens is I want to be able to get back to this particular page for rules and regulations quickly later on. So what I have up at the top is an option called bookmark this page. When I click this, I can set up to 3 different bookmarks. So in this case, I click set as bookmark 1. I go back to the main menu by clicking the main menu link, And then later on, when I want to go back to that particular section, here's the option, go to your bookmarks. I go ahead, I click it, and in this case I click bookmark 1, and it takes me back to that second page for rules and regulations. I click main menu in the lower right corner to return to the main menu, and I notice that next to my different topics that there are check boxes. These check boxes allow me to mark that particular topic as being completed. For example, if I went through rules and regulations, I can then click its checkbox, and this lets me know that it's already been done. If I want to remove that check mark, I go ahead and I click the checkbox again, and it goes away. We saw earlier that we could flag our different questions, either low, medium, or high. Now here what happens is on the main menu there's an option called Knowledge Base Challenge. We go ahead and click that, and it takes us to the Knowledge Base Challenge module. And in this yellow box we see we have filter options. Like in this case there's knowledge level. I click the drop down, I click low, and then I go ahead and I click OK. And in the yellow box here it tells me that there's now a filter on, and in this case it's showing me question 1 of 2. To the right I have a navigation pane that allows me to navigate my different questions by clicking on them. For example, I click on the second question, I'm there. I click on the first one, it takes me back to it. Down below I have 2 challenge yourself options. If I go ahead, I click the first one, challenge yourself. And what this does, it brings up the particular question. Now mentally in my mind I can go ahead and give the answer. Then I can click check answer, and the actual answer drops in. If I knew the actual answer, if I want, I could actually change the knowledge level here, but in this case I'm going to leave it alone. If I click close challenge, it returns me back to the knowledge based challenge module. I go ahead, I click challenge yourself too, and I see here's my question, and here are the possible answers below. And in this case, if I go ahead, I click one of the options here, it'll tell me whether or not I was correct or not. If I go ahead and I click on this other one here, it tells me whether or not I was correct. To return to the previous screen, I can click close challenge, or if I want to return back to the main menu, I click on the main menu link in the lower right corner. In the lower left of the main menu I have an option called Basic Anatomy, and here I have the options to learn more about skin, nails, or hair. Like in this case I'll go ahead, I'll click skin. In this case here it gives me some information about skin. I can scroll down to see more information. There's an option called Skin Challenge. If I click that, this works pretty much the same way as the knowledge challenges, that we have the yellow boxes that we can enter our answers, or we can click the hyperlinks to the left of our different answers. We have the option also to flag these particular questions. And in this case though, I'm just going to click close to close it out. And to return back to the main menu, I can either click main menu in the lower right, or I can click return to previous screen. We have different practice tests that we can take to go ahead and prepare for the state board exam. Like in this case here, I'll go ahead, I'll click practice test 1. For each practice test, you will have 1 hour to complete it. When you actually take your state board test, you'll actually have 2 hours. The philosophy here is if you can get confident and the routine down and taking a test in 1 hour, then actually taking the test under 2 hours will be no problem for you. To start the test, we click the OK button. We notice up at the top we have a timer going, telling us how much time we have left to complete the test. Down below we have navigation buttons. If I click next, it takes me to the next question. Previous takes me back. In the upper right corner there's a flag option. If you're unsure about a particular answer and you want to come back to it later on, if you have time, you can go ahead and flag it. When you get to the end of the test, there'll be an option to submit the test. What you can do if you still have time is use your navigation buttons to browse through the different questions and look for the different flags. When you get to the end of the test, there's an option there to submit tests. Clicking that will take us into the results page, and right here at the top we'll see our score and whether or not we passed or failed. We have a chart showing our test results, how many were correct percentage wise, how many were incorrect. To the left we have our answers, and we'll notice that there's X's next to the ones that are incorrect, and then we have actually our answers, and then we have our correct answers as well. To return to the main menu, we click the main menu link in the lower right corner. In the lower right corner there's an option called renting a kit for test date. If you click that, it'll take you into an informational page that has information on how you can go about and renting a kit for test date to make sure you have all the items necessary. To return back to the main menu, we can click Return to Previous Screen. We fully understand how hectic test date can be. So what we did is, on the main menu there's an option called Test Check List. And if we go ahead and click that, it brings up a checklist of the things you want to make sure you take care of before and on test date. And what we notice here is that we have different sections like test preparation, rented a kit for a practical test, and then down below we have different buttons to actually edit those particular sections. Like for example, here's Edit Test Preparation. We go ahead and click that. Pop-up dialog box comes up, and then here's the option completion of 1,600 hours with an accredited school. If we completed that, we can click the drop down and then click the X to mark that as completed. If you already received your test date, you can click the drop down, click the X, and like here we can mark where we're actually taking the test. Like in this case, we'll click the drop down for Southern California. And if you have the date and time, you could type that in, and other information as well here. In this case though, we'll click OK, and notice how it added that information here for us. We can scroll down this checklist and see what different options are available. There's even an option here called Edit Notes. If we go ahead and click that, it opens up that we can go ahead and type in any notes that we want to type in to make sure that we have everything needed for test date. We click OK, and we scroll down, we see we added the notes. To return back to the main menu, either click the main menu link in the lower right corner or click Return to Previous Screen.